Told myself the drive would be worth it. 6 hours from my apartment in Charlotte up through the Blue Ridge, the kind of drive where you watch the leaves change 3 times before you reach the exit. My son Theo had fallen asleep in the back seat somewhere around Asheville, his cheek pressed against the window, his stuffed triceratops tucked under his chin. He was turning 9 in 2 days, and my mother had called me 3 weeks earlier with what she described as an idea. A combined celebration, she'd said. Wouldn't that be sweet? Theo and the twins all together at the cabin. We haven't had everyone in one place in years. The twins were my younger sister Bridget's boys. They'd turned 5 back in September. The fact that my mother considered September and November close enough to combine should have been my first sign. But I was tired, and Theo had been begging to see his cousins, and I wanted to believe. I pulled up the gravel drive a little after 4 in the afternoon. The cabin sat the way it always had, low and brown against the pine trees, smoke already curling from the chimney. There were cars I didn't recognize, a black SUV, a red minivan, a truck with a Tennessee plate. I counted 6 vehicles before I even got out, and something inside my chest went tight. Theo stirred when I cut the engine. "Are we there, Mom?" "We're here, Bug. Grab your bag." He came around the side of the car, rubbing his eyes, the triceratops still in his hand, and I watched him walk up the porch steps in front of me. He was wearing the shirt he picked out himself that morning, the one with the planets on it, because he wanted his grandmother to see how much he'd been studying. The door opened before we knocked. My mother stood there in a cream sweater and earrings I'd never seen, her hair done in a way that meant she'd been to a salon. "Oh," she said, and her eyes went past Theo and landed on me. "You made it. Hi, Mom." She leaned down toward Theo. "Hello, sweetheart. The twins are out back already. Go on, go find them." He looked up at me first, the way he always does, and I nodded, and he disappeared down the hallway toward the back of the house. I stepped inside, and my mother shut the door behind me, and that's when I saw it. The dining room had been transformed. There were streamers in pale blue and silver running from the chandelier to every corner, a balloon arch over the doorway to the kitchen, a banner that read, "Happy 5th Birthday, Boys," in glittering letters across the back wall. On the dining table sat a 3-tier cake, white fondant with little fishing rods piped down the side because the twins liked fishing. There were 2 stacks of presents on the floor, one for each of them, each stack reaching nearly to my hip. I'd helped set up enough birthday parties to know that those stacks weren't decoration. There was real money in those boxes. I stood there in the entryway with my purse still over my shoulder. "Mom." "What? Where's Theo's?" She gave me a look like I'd asked her where the sky was. "Where's Theo's what?" "His banner, his stack. The cake says the twins." She laughed, actually laughed, a little nervous flutter of a sound. "Honey, we couldn't fit everything." "The cake says, 'Happy birthday, boys.' That includes Theo, doesn't it? He's a boy." I didn't answer. I walked past her into the dining room and counted. There were 19 presents for the older twin and 17 for the younger one. I checked every tag twice. I checked under the table. I checked behind the couch in the living room where my mother sometimes hid things from the dog. There was nothing for Theo. Not a card. Not a wrapped book. Not so much as a gas station gift bag with his name on it. My sister Bridget came in from the kitchen with a glass of wine in her hand. "Oh, hey, you made it." "Theo back there with the boys." "Bridget. Where's Theo's birthday gift from Mom?" Bridget's eyes flicked to my mother, and I caught it. That one little glance. The way the 2 of them had always done it. My whole life. The look that said, "We already talked about this." "Well," Bridget said slowly, "the twins are turning 5. It's a big milestone. We figured Theo would understand." "He's 8. Exactly. He's old enough to understand." I felt something cold travel down my spine and settle somewhere behind my ribs. From the back of the house, I could hear my son laughing. That high, eager laugh he uses when he wants to be liked. He was trying to play with the twins. He was trying to fit in. My mother put her hand on my arm. "Don't make this into something. Please. Not today." Aunt Maeve drove all the way from Knoxville. I let her hand sit there. "How many gifts did you buy the twins?" "Sweetheart, How many? She pursed her lips. I don't keep count. Did you buy Theo anything? Theo had his birthday last year. His birthday is in 2 days. She looked at me with the kind of patient exhaustion she'd been wearing my whole life. We can't make it about him every time. Bridget's been waiting for this party for months. The boys only turned 5 once. I didn't say anything else. I walked back through the house toward the sound of my son's voice. He was in the backyard with the twins and they were not playing with him. They were doing the thing kids do when they want another kid to leave. The deliberate turning of shoulders, the little group huddle, the looking at him and then looking away. Theo was standing about 6 feet back from them, holding his triceratops and trying to laugh at whatever they were saying like he was part of it. I crouched down at the edge of the porch. Hey, Bug, come here a sec. He came over so fast it broke my heart. You having fun? He nodded the way kids nod when the answer is no, but they don't want you to worry. They're doing a fishing game. I don't really know how to play. Did Grandma say happy birthday to you? He shook his head. Not yet, she's busy. I nodded slowly. Hey, you want to go get pizza? His face went still. Just us? Just us. I think we should go. What about the cake? There'll be cake, Bug. I promise. He looked at me, this very serious 8-year-old face, the face he makes when he's deciding whether to trust something. Then he said, Okay, Mom. I went back inside. My mother was standing by the dining table now, arranging napkins into little fans. Aunt Maeve had come out of the kitchen. Bridget's husband was on the couch with a beer. 3 of the cousins I hadn't seen in years were sitting on the floor doing something on a tablet. I picked up my purse from where I'd set it down. What are you doing? My mother said. We're leaving. You just got here. I know. Bridget set her wine glass down. Are you serious right now? You're going to ruin the whole party because Theo didn't get a present? I looked at her. I looked at my mother. I looked at the streamers and the cake and the 2 waist-high stacks of presents and the boy in the planet shirt who was now standing in the hallway with his small green dinosaur clutched against his chest. I'm not ruining anything, I said. I'm just leaving. My mother's face hardened in a way I recognized from childhood. If you walk out that door, don't expect me to come chasing after you. I won't. Theo took my hand. I helped him with his coat. We walked out to the car together and I buckled him in and I didn't look back at the porch, even though I could feel my mother standing on it. I pulled down the gravel drive and turned onto the county road and drove about 4 miles before I had to pull over because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Theo was very quiet in the back seat. Mom? Yeah, Bug. Did I do something? I closed my eyes. No. You didn't do anything. I want you to listen to me. You didn't do a single thing wrong. Do you understand me? You didn't do a single thing wrong. Do you understand me? Okay. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that aren't fair, and it's not your fault. It's never your fault. Okay? Okay, Mom. I drove us to a Pizza Hut in a town I didn't know the name of. We sat in a corner booth and Theo ordered pepperoni and a root beer and I watched him eat, and I tried to swallow the heat in my throat. He told me about a documentary he'd been watching about deep-sea creatures. He told me anglerfish have a light on their heads. He told me his teacher had said he could maybe enter the regional science fair next spring. He kept talking, my brave boy. Kept filling the silence, so I wouldn't have to. We drove to a Holiday Inn Express off the highway and I paid for one night. Theo fell asleep on top of the covers with the TV on low. I sat in a desk chair and opened my laptop. I work as a paralegal at a mid-sized firm downtown. I'd worked there for 7 years. I know what a beneficiary designation looks like. I know what a transfer on death account is. And about 3 years ago, after my father died and left me a small inheritance, I'd done what a dutiful daughter does. I'd put my mother as the primary beneficiary on my life insurance, on my 401k, on the small brokerage account I'd built up working overtime. If something happened to me, the money would go to her to hold in trust for Theo until he turned 25. Bridget was the contingent. The 2 of them, together, in charge of my son's future if I died. I'd done it because I trusted them. I'd done it because I was raised to. I opened my insurance portal. I opened my retirement portal. I opened the brokerage account. I changed every single beneficiary that night, sitting in a Holiday Inn Express 40 miles from my mother's cabin, while my son slept in a strange bed beside me. Theo became the sole primary beneficiary, with my best friend Renata as the trustee. 20% went to a children's literacy foundation in Charlotte. 0% went to my mother. 0% went to my sister. I emailed the firm's estate planning partner, Diane, and asked her to draw up a new will first thing Monday. I told her it was urgent. Then I lay down next to my son and watched the ceiling fan turn. My phone buzzed at 6:47 the next morning. It was my father. Well, my stepfather, technically. He'd married my mother when I was 14, and I'd always called him by his first name, Hollis. He wasn't a bad man. He just never disagreed with my mother about anything. I almost didn't answer. I did anyway. Hey, sweetheart. His voice had the careful tone he uses when my mother is in the room. Listen, your mom's pretty upset. She didn't sleep. Okay, I wanted to ask you something. I waited. You know that truck I've been wanting to look at? The F-150 over in Boone. I closed my eyes. Yeah, the guy's willing to come down to 38. But I'd need a little help on the down payment. I was thinking about $3,200. Just a loan. I'd get it back to you in a couple months. He'd been borrowing money from me for 4 years. Car repairs, property tax, a vet bill for a dog that I later realized he didn't actually own. He'd never pay back a single dollar. No, Hollis. What? No, I'm not loaning you any more money. There was a pause. Sweetheart, come on. This isn't about yesterday. It is about yesterday. It's about every yesterday. Your mom didn't mean anything by it. You know how she gets when she's organizing. She gets tunnel vision. She didn't buy my son a birthday present, Hollis. He's a kid. He'll forget about it. I sat up on the edge of the bed. Theo was still asleep, his hair stuck up in the back. He won't. I won't. I won't. I'm done. Don't call me about money again. I hung up. I blocked his number before I could change my mind. We drove home that morning. Theo wanted to listen to his ocean documentary playlist, so we listened to a man with a British accent talk about whale falls for 4 hours, and somewhere outside Hickory, my son fell asleep again with his triceratops on his lap. By the time we pulled into our apartment complex, I had 31 missed calls. Mom, Bridget, Hollis, even though I'd blocked him, Aunt Maeve, 2 numbers I didn't recognize, voicemails I would not listen to, texts in the family group chat that I scrolled past without opening. I carried Theo's bag inside and I made him grilled cheese for lunch, and I told him we were going to have his birthday at home. His real birthday was Monday. I took the day off. I'd already had a small gift hidden in my closet for weeks, a telescope I'd been saving for, the kind with the moon filter and the tripod, and I'd ordered him a chocolate cake from the bakery near our apartment. I'd ordered it 3 weeks ago, the same day my mother called about the combined celebration because some quiet part of me had known. I'd ordered the cake because I'd known. We had his birthday in our living room, just the 2 of us. I'd hung a string of construction paper planets that I'd cut out the night before, and he laughed at how lopsided they were. He blew out his candles. He opened the telescope, and his hands shook a little from excitement, and he said, Mom, this is the one I wanted. I know, Bug. How did you know? Because you told me in June. He hugged me so hard I felt the press of his small ribs. That night he asked me, very quietly, Are we going to see Grandma again? Not for a while, sweetheart. Is that because of me? No, it's because of her. None of this is because of you. He nodded, and then he said something that I have not been able to forget. He said, I don't think Grandma likes me very much. I didn't lie to him. I couldn't. I think Grandma doesn't know how to like people the right way, I said. And that's not because of anything you did. That's something broken in her. He thought about that. Then he said, okay. And he went back to looking at the moon to his telescope, and the conversation was over. The letters started on Wednesday. The first one came in a pale pink envelope. My mother's handwriting. Sweetheart, I think you've had time to calm down. Please call me. We need to talk like adults about what happened. The boys were so disappointed you left. They had a special present they'd made for Theo. There was no present. The twins had made nothing. I knew because I'd searched the house. The second letter came 3 days later. I don't know what's gotten into you. Bridget says you've been acting strange for years. I'm starting to wonder if you need to talk to someone. I'm only saying this because I love you. The third said if you continue to keep Theo from us, we will have to consider our options. A grandmother has rights. I started a file, manila folder, the kind we use at work, with a tab labeled simply with the year. I put every letter in chronologically. I scanned them and saved them to a folder on my work laptop. I printed out the text messages. I exported the voicemails. I kept a log of every call attempted, every blocked number, every new number my mother tried to use to get around the blocks. A grandmother has rights. I knew, professionally, that this was not exactly true. North Carolina has some of the narrowest grandparent visitation laws in the country. They essentially apply only when the parents are divorced or one has died, and even then the bar is high. My mother either didn't know this or was bluffing. Either way, it didn't matter. I was ready. The petition came 6 weeks later, certified mail. My mother had found a lawyer. I read the document standing at my mailbox in the rain. It alleged that I was emotionally unstable, that I had isolated my son from his loving, extended family, that I was acting out of vindictiveness over an unrelated dispute. It asked the court for visitation rights, alleging a substantial existing relationship that was being arbitrarily severed. I drove to work the next morning and walked straight to Diane's office. I need a favor, I said. Not pro bono. I'll pay your rate, but I need you. She read the petition in about 2 minutes. She set it down. She took her glasses off. How much documentation do you have? Everything. Every letter. Every text. The party. I took a picture of the dining room before we left. She raised her eyebrows. You took a picture of the dining room? I had. I'd taken 3. Wide shot of the streamers and the banner, close shot of the cake that said, "Happy birthday, boys," and the 2 waist-high stacks of presents next to the empty floor where Theo's stack should have been. You took those before you even said anything to her? I knew something was wrong when I walked in. I think part of me knew before I walked in. She put her glasses back on. We're going to win this. We're going to win this so completely they're going to wish they'd never filed. The hearing was set for early March. In the meantime, I lived my life. I went to work. I drove Theo to school and to swim lessons and to a Saturday science club at the community college that he was the youngest kid in. I painted his bedroom for him because he asked for it. Deep navy on 3 walls and a galaxy mural on the 4th that I did myself with stencils and a sponge from Michael's. It was not a good mural. He told me it was the best thing he'd ever seen. He put glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling and laid on his back looking up at them every night before bed. I got a promotion in January. Senior paralegal, which came with a $6,000 raise and access to a small bonus pool I hadn't been eligible for before. I cried at my desk for about 90 seconds, and then I went back to work. The letters kept coming. They got meaner. Then they got fake kind. Then they got mean again. My mother sent one in February that said I had been praying for you. I worry that you have lost your way. I worry about what kind of woman my grandson is going to become. I put it in the folder. 3 days before the hearing, I sat Theo down at the kitchen table. Bug, I need to tell you about something. Okay. Grandma and Aunt Bridget have asked a judge to make me let you visit them sometimes. He blinked. A judge? Like at a courthouse. It's not a scary thing. The judge just listens to everyone and decides what's best. The judge might want to ask you a question or two. You don't have to talk if you don't want to. But if the judge asks, all you have to do is tell the truth. What truth? Whatever's true for you. Whatever you really feel. He thought for a long moment. Then he said, Grandma forgot my birthday. Yeah. Is it okay to say that to the judge? Yes. If the judge asks, it's okay. The morning of the hearing, I put him in a button-down shirt that was a little too big at the shoulders. I wore a navy suit I'd bought specifically for this. Diane met us at the courthouse with a leather portfolio that I knew contained the entire folder, including the photographs. My mother was already there when we walked in. Bridget, too. Both of them dressed like they were going to a funeral. Which I suppose in a way they were. Hollis sat behind them, hands folded. He didn't look at me. My mother's attorney was a slick-looking man in a gray suit, who began by describing a warm, multi-generational family relationship that had been suddenly and inexplicably severed by an unstable adult daughter holding a grudge over a minor holiday miscommunication. He used the phrase, minor holiday miscommunication, 3 times. He described my mother as a devoted grandmother. He described Theo as suffering from the loss of his only extended family. He never used Theo's name. He called him the child or the minor, or, twice, the grandchild in question. Diane stood up and asked the judge for permission to introduce visual evidence. She put the photographs on a screen, the wide shot first, then the cake, then the gift stacks. Your Honor, these were taken by my client on the afternoon of November 14th at the petitioner's home. The party in question was billed as a, quote, combined celebration for my client's son and the petitioner's other grandchildren. The other grandchildren are 5 years old. My client's son was about to turn 9. As you can see from the photographs, the decorations, the cake, and the presents were exclusively for the 5-year-olds. There was no provision of any kind for the older grandchild. She let the photographs sit on the screen. Then she pulled out the letters. She read 3 of them aloud. The one threatening legal action. The one accusing me of mental instability. The one saying my mother had been praying about what kind of woman her grandson would become. Then she said, I'd like to ask the petitioner one question, Your Honor. The judge nodded. Diane turned to my mother. Ma'am, when is your grandson's birthday? There was a long pause. My mother smiled the way she does when she's caught. Sometime in the fall, I believe. What month, ma'am? October. It's November, Your Honor. November 18th. He's 9 years old. The judge wrote something down. One more question, ma'am. What grade is he in? My mother tried. I could see her trying. 4th. 3rd, Your Honor. He's in 3rd grade. He has a science fair project on bioluminescent fish that he's been working on for 2 months. He's the youngest member of his Saturday Science Enrichment Program. Diane sat down. The judge took a recess and came back 20 minutes later. She denied the petition. She used phrases like no demonstrated meaningful relationship and no good faith effort at reconciliation, and, my favorite, the petition appears to be a vehicle for the petitioner's own emotional grievances rather than the welfare of the child. She dismissed the case with prejudice. My mother could not refile. We walked out of the courthouse. Theo had not been called to speak. The judge had decided she didn't need him to. He held my hand the whole way down the courthouse steps and into the parking lot, and he didn't say anything until we were buckled into the car. Then he said, Mom? Yeah, Bug? Can we get pizza? I laughed so hard, I cried. The aftermath was quieter than I expected. My mother sent one more letter, about a month later, that I did not open. I added it to the folder unread. Bridget posted some things on Facebook that mutual relatives reported back to me. Things about how I had broken our mother's heart and was poisoning my son against his family. I didn't engage. Aunt Maeve called once, kindly, and said she was sorry, and she said she had seen the favoritism for years and never known how to bring it up. I told her it was okay. I told her I knew it was complicated. Theo did the science fair. He won 2nd place at his school and then went to the regional and won an honorable mention and got a ribbon that he hung over his bed. He kept the telescope on his windowsill and learned to find Jupiter on his own. He started writing little stories about a kid who lives on a research submarine. He laughed more. He asked me one night in the summer, very casually, "Are we ever going to live at Grandma's town again?" And when I said no, he just said, "Okay, I like it here. and went back to his book. 3 years passed. Theo turned 12. He grew 6 inches in one summer. He developed a vocabulary that scared his teachers in a good way. He still slept under his glow-in-the-dark stars, although now he could reach the ceiling without a stool. We took a trip to the Outer Banks for his birthday and ate too many hush puppies and watched dolphins from the pier. My phone rang on a Wednesday afternoon in October. I was at my desk. It was Aunt Maeve. "Sweetheart, are you sitting down?" "What?" "Your mother had a stroke this morning. She didn't make it." I sat very still. The fluorescent light over my desk buzzed in the way it had been buzzing for 3 years, and I had been meaning to ask facilities to fix. "Okay," I said. "The service is going to be Saturday, at the Methodist Church. I wanted you to hear it from me." "Thank you, Aunt Maeve." "Are you coming?" I thought about it. I thought about it for about 4 seconds. No. She didn't try to talk me out of it. She just said, "I understand, sweetheart. I love you," and we hung up. I picked Theo up from school that afternoon and we drove home and I made spaghetti and we ate it at the kitchen table and I told him. He set his fork down. "Are you sad, Mom?" "I don't know what I am, Bug. I think I did most of my sad already. A long time ago." He nodded. He ate another bite. Then he said, "Do we have to go to the funeral?" "No, we don't." "Okay." He thought for a minute. "Is that mean?" "No, Bug. Going to a funeral is something you do because you love someone and you'll miss them. We can stay home." He nodded again. "Can we watch the otter documentary tonight?" "Yes." We watched the otter documentary. He fell asleep on the couch about 40 minutes in, and I covered him with the blanket from the back of the recliner. And I sat there with the TV light flickering on his face, and I thought about all the things my mother would never get to do. She would never see him graduate. She would never see the man he would become. She would never hear him give a talk on bioluminescence at the science fair the way he had 2 springs ago, his voice steady and proud at a podium that came up to his chest. She had not earned any of that. She had decided, on a Saturday afternoon in November, that he didn't matter enough to put his name on a banner. Everything that came after had been built on the back of that one decision. Her decision, not mine. Aunt Maeve sent me the obituary the following week. She didn't have to. She did it because she knew I would want to see and because she knew I would notice what was missing. The obituary listed my mother's surviving family. Her husband, Hollis. Her daughter, Bridget. Bridget's husband. The twins, by name. The cousins. A great-niece I had met once. I was not listed. Theo was not listed. I held that piece of paper for a long time. Then I folded it in half and walked it to the folder. The same folder I had started 3 years earlier in a Holiday Inn Express, and I slid it in at the very back. Then I closed the folder, and I closed the drawer, and I walked out to the living room where my son was building a model of a deep-sea submersible at the kitchen table. "Hey, Bug, yeah? You hungry?" "A little." "Pizza?" He grinned at me, my whole entire world, and said, "Always pizza." I called in the order. I sat down across from him and watched him glue a tiny plastic propeller onto the back of the sub. He told me about the Mariana Trench. He told me about a fish that lives so deep its skin is transparent. He told me he wanted to be either a marine biologist or a writer, and he hadn't decided yet. And what did I think? I told him I thought he could be both. He thought about that. He said, "Yeah, maybe both." The pizza came. We ate it at the table under the kitchen light I had been meaning to replace, and outside the window the leaves were doing the thing they do in October in Charlotte, the slow turn from green to gold. And somewhere 4 hours north of us, a town I used to call home was preparing to bury a woman who had decided I was not her daughter long before she decided I had stopped being her daughter. That night, I tucked him in under the stars on his ceiling. He was getting too old to be tucked in, but he let me anyway, the way he always lets me. I sat on the edge of his bed and brushed his hair back from his forehead. "Mom?" "Yeah, Bug. I love our family." "Me too, Bug. It's a good size, right? It's the perfect size." He closed his eyes, "Right? It's the perfect size." He closed his eyes. His breathing slowed. The little plastic stars on the ceiling glowed soft green, the way they had every night for 3 years, and I sat there until I was sure he was asleep, and then I leaned down and kissed his forehead, and I whispered the same thing I have whispered to him every single night since the day I walked out of my mother's cabin. I said, "You were always enough." And then I turned off the light, and I closed the door, and I went out to the living room, and I did not cry. There was nothing left in me to cry about. There was only him, and me, and the long, quiet life we had built. 2 people in a small apartment in Charlotte with a telescope on the windowsill and a stack of library books on the coffee table and a folder in a desk drawer that I would probably never open again. It was enough. It had always been enough. It was, in fact, everything. I've thought a lot about that drive home from the cabin. The 4 miles where my hands wouldn't stop shaking. The Pizza Hut booth where my son tried so hard to make me feel better that he told me facts about anglerfish for 20 minutes straight. I used to wonder if I overreacted. I don't wonder anymore. What I learned, sitting in that Holiday Inn at midnight, changing beneficiary forms with a Bic pen between my teeth, is that some patterns don't break themselves. My mother had been quietly choosing Bridget over me for 34 years, smaller portions on my plate at dinner, my report cards filed away while Bridget's got framed. Christmas presents that always felt like an afterthought next to my sister's. I had explained it away my whole life. She's tired, she's stressed, she doesn't mean it. And then I had a son, and she did it to him, and the same script ran in front of me again with a different child playing my old role. That's when I finally understood. She didn't forget Theo. She never forgot anything in her life. She chose him to be forgotten the same way she'd chosen me. Every act has a cause. Every cause sets the next act in motion. The favoritism wasn't a glitch. It was the operating system. Walking out that afternoon was the first time in my life I didn't argue with her, didn't beg her to see me, didn't perform good daughter for the relatives in the kitchen. I just left. And the second I left, every single thing she had built on my compliance started to crack. The trust money I was supposed to leave her. The down payment Hollis was supposed to get for his truck. The narrative that she was a devoted matriarch and I was the difficult one. None of it survived contact with the daughter who finally said no. Here's what I want you to take from this if you're listening and something in your chest is tightening because you recognize the room I just described. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. You are not required to hand your child the same script you were handed. Protecting a kid sometimes looks loud and sometimes looks quiet. And the quiet kind, the kind where you just zip his coat and walk out, is often the strongest. It takes a kind of mind, a kind of heart, and a kind of backbone all at the same time. The clarity to see what's happening. The decency to refuse to pass it on. The endurance to hold the line for months, while the people who hurt your child call you cruel for protecting him. Theo is 12 now. He sleeps under glow-in-the-dark stars and wants to be a marine biologist and a writer. He has never once asked to go back to that cabin. My mother is buried in a town I haven't visited in 3 years. Both of those things are consequences. Both of them are mine to live with, and I am at peace with every single one.